The storm crawled over the roofs like a wounded animal, rattling gutter screws and dragging the Wi-Fi into prayer. I was in the hallway with a bottle and a blanket, tapping the baby monitor app back to life, when the feed flickered, then cued odd, out-of-order clips like memories shuffled by a drunk librarian. Noah's soft breath filled my phone speaker, then cut. Laughter that didn't belong in our house. Not Noah's, not mine. A man's. The nursery came up ghost green. The crib, the mobile, the faint mirror shine of the window across from the changing table. Marina cross frame, hair in a loose knot, that robe she saves for slow mornings. She looked up, to someone off camera. The laugh grew closer and my veins went glass. I thumbed the timeline and watched my life split at a clean seam I hadn't known was there. A date stamp, 3 days old. I saved the clip, locked the screen, and walked past our bedroom door like a burglar, pretending I still belonged on the other side of it. Morning makes pretend out of monsters, and the house obliges. Coffee shudders through the machine. Marina hums some pop chorus, hair still damp. Robe traded for a neat blouse that says nothing happened and everything will be fine. I plate banana slices for Noah, cut thinner than usual so my hands have a job besides shaking. The clip sits in my pocket, warm as a coal. I ask about her day the way a man asks about a bridge he's already seen collapse. Calm, curious, stepping lightly around the fault. She kisses my cheek and tastes like mint and rain. There's a jacket in the laundry I don't recognize, heavier than her style. She laughs at the lint and says, "Ruth, dropped it off last week." A manufactured echo. Noah slaps his palms and the monitor chirps from the counter, cheerful as a lie. I watch her eyes catch the device and skate away. The storm is gone, but the wind it left keeps blowing inside my chest, turning every cupboard door into a question. Work is an underwater cathedral where sound arrives late and heavy. I sit at my desk, pretending to be the same man who wrote yesterday's emails, nodding at code reviews while a second monitor in my head replays Tuesday at 2:13 p.m. Talia drifts by with her sleeve tattoo hidden under a cardigan, eyes quick, voice drier than office air. She asks about the storm. I say we kept power, and the lie is shapeless in my mouth. At lunch, I open the app's cloud settings and discover it keeps helpful backups in a folder I never knew existed. Helpful, like a confession box that forgot to close the grate. The doorbell logs align with the baby monitor's timeline like teeth in a zipper. I feel something close. Not relief, not rage. A clarity that slices through the static. I make a new folder and name it what it is. Proof. The word waits for whatever I feed it. Night draws the house tight again and I test the edges like a locksmith. I ask Marina about the jacket. She smiles too quickly and calls it Ruth's. I mention a contractor. She tilts her head the way she does when picking a story. Settles on an electrician whose name she can't quite remember. The baby monitor sits between us on the coffee table, a sleeping witness. She talks about Sunday plans at church and places her hand on my knee. It is a familiar weight that feels suddenly staged, like a hand model hired to play my wife. I nod, take her hand and feel the fault lines under the skin. My own, mostly. In the reflection on the TV, our shapes sit together but look misaligned. Edges, not stitching. I tell her I might be home early Tuesday. Her lashes flutter, almost nothing. Almost. The storm returns as if it forgot something, rattling the gutters awake at 2 a.m. I get up under the excuse of checking Noah and stand in the doorway, listening to a child dream, the safest sounds on earth. I set the monitor to live and let the hush spool through the room. Marina appears behind me in the mirror of the window. Robe cinched, eyes soft with sleep or performance. I'm too tired to tell. She slides beside me and asks if I'm okay. I say, I'm thinking about Tuesdays. And the word hangs like a chandelier over a room she doesn't want to see. Her fingers find my wrist. In the soft green light, our hands are the same color and not the same life. I promise myself I will not raise my voice, that I will not break what no one needs whole. I hold that promise in my mouth like a seed, hard and bitter, waiting for the right soil. Morning wears its innocence like starch, and Marina leans into it like a practiced role. She floats through the kitchen with that soft hum again, citrusy perfume cresting before her like a bright lie. And when I ask where she was Tuesday, she frowns, as if the question itself is a cruel. She says something about errands, about Ruth needing a drop-off, about the world being bigger than my anxious theories. The word anxious lands between us like a diagnosis, and I'm suddenly a patient in my own house. She reaches for my face with concern I almost recognize and asks if the storm made me spiral. Spiral, an elegant verb for drowning. I say maybe. I say I couldn't sleep, and the monitor kept chirping. She laughs and says the app has an echo. Sometimes it repeats audio, didn't I know? I nod, memorizing the tone. The shape of the excuse, the way her eyes skate to the counter where the monitor sits. Gaslight is not a fire, it's a dimmer switch, and she keeps turning it down until I'm whispering. The laundry room is a little courtroom where clothes testify without nerves. Norsh. I sift through damp cotton and find the heavy plaid jacket again, the one that doesn't know our house, carrying a scent that isn't ours. Sawdust, motel soap, the nickel tang of rain. I hold it like a question and walk into the hallway, and Marina meets me with a smile already loaded in the chamber. She says Ruth dropped it off. I ask when. She says last week. I ask why. She says Ruth thought I might like it. Ruth, who buys scented candles and knitted throws, now moonlighting as my flannel stylist. Marina laughs at the absurdity I point out, but the laugh is too bright. A cymbal crash to cover a wrong note. I don't say the other scent I recognize, the one my body knows even when my mind doesn't want to. I hang the jacket where it can be seen. Evidence breathes better in air than in closets. At work, normal pretends again, but Talia's eyes are built for glitches. She leans on my cube wall and asks how the storm really was. The adverb like a key. I tell her about the echo, about the jacket, about Tuesdays at 2 turning into a superstition I can't shake. She listens the way good auditors pray, quietly. For clarity. She doesn't tell me I'm crazy. She asks where the data lives. I pull up the phone logs, the calendar, the doorbell's polite list of visitors, and there's a rhythm so steady, it feels like music playing in another room. Talia tilts her head and says, patterns are honest, people less so. She suggests I create a clean repository and write down everything exactly as found. No embellishment, no predictions, so I don't become the unreliable narrator of my own story. The phrase stings and saves me at once. I start a document titled simply Tuesdays. Sunday service is the theater where Marina knows all her lines. She glides through the narthex with a practiced warmth, greeting ushers by name, placing Noah in the crook of her arm like a hymn. Pastor Bennett smiles and asks after us, and Marina answers before I can, painting our week in soft watercolors. I watch the stained glass throw rubies on her cheeks and think about how light can make anything look holy for a moment. During the sermon on truth spoken in love, her hand finds mine, and I wonder if love without truth is just choreography. After the benediction, Pastor holds my gaze a beat too long, as if he hears something off in the harmony. Marina invites Ruth for lunch with a brightness engineered for witnesses. I nod and carry the diaper bag and the secret like twin weights, one ost and one not. Night again, kitchen quiet, the refrigerator's low hum, a metronome for resolve. I spread the week across the table the way my father once spread tax receipts. Calm, methodical, a little sad. Doorbell logs, calendar blocks, credit card pings that look innocent until they rhyme. Coffee near the motel. gas stations aligned like breadcrumbs. The baby monitor casts a patient glow from the counter. Noah's breath a soft tide in the speaker. I circle Tuesdays at 2:00 p.m. until the ink threatens to bleed through. This is not madness. This is measurement. The difference is intention and a folder structure. I put the jacket on the chair back, a scarecrow against forgetting. When Marina asks what I'm doing, I say budgeting, and it isn't a lie. I am counting the cost before I purchase the truth. The quiet nods in approval. The trap begins with courtesy. I text Marina a screenshot of a fake contractor estimate, just a whisper of plumbing work and a question mark about Tuesday access, and set the phone down as if it isn't a lure bright as a hook. 10 minutes later, a new text pops from an unfamiliar number saved under a bland alias. Happy to swing by at 2:00, Caleb. Has the tact of a boot print. I forward nothing. Reply to no one. Simply watch the calendar receive the penciled sin like it's any other meeting. Talia passes my desk and I say, hypothetically, if a contractor were terrible at hypotheticals. She doesn't smile. She says, document the approach, not the assumption. So I screen record the message thread, capture metadata, and let the phone sleep on a folder labeled chain. A plan isn't vengeance. It's a map with exits marked. I draw an X where I know they'll be, and wait for the hands to reach to. Tuesday arrives with the sterile brightness of a hospital corridor. I tell my team I'm stepping out for an on-site, and the lie barely moves the air. The doorbell camera dings at 1:58 p.m. Broad shoulders in flannel, head ducked. Then again at 2:04, as Marina opens, face arranged like hospitality. I don't go home. I drive past, a slow orbit, 2 streets over, and watch the house become scenery in my rear view, as if stepping back can turn pain into a photograph. Phone pings layer like sediment. The doorbell logs, the monitor wake, the brief disconnection when they switch to privacy. Patterns keep promises even when people don't. I follow the breadcrumb purchases. A coffee 2 blocks from the boutique motel, a gas top off near the highway, until the motel's vacancy sign blinks its slow red confession. I park under a tired palm and let the engine tick in the heat, patience tightening into a clean wire. The camera makes me braver than I am. I step out as if to stretch, slide the phone into video, and let the frame work while I become shadow. They cross the lot with domestic choreography. He reaches for nothing he hasn't already taken. She glances once like a swimmer gouging a current. The clerk barely looks up. The keycard flashes. The door swings. I mark the room number with a low, steady pan. Record the time, the make of the truck, the coffee sleeve in his hand. I am careful like a surgeon. Not because I want to hurt them, but because I refuse to harm myself by being sloppy. My reflection ghosts in a window, and I hardly recognize the calm in it. When a housekeeper's cart rattles by, I step aside and nod. We are 2 people doing our jobs on a Tuesday. The door closes. The red vacancy sign blinks, unbothered. The phone's timer ticks past what mercy requires. Back in the car, the proof is not a shout but a ledger. I record a clean narration. Date, time, location, then splice the sequence. Doorbell, clip, monitor log, motel check-in, silent hallway pan. It's astonishing how truth behaves when you respect its chain of custody. It stands up straighter. It invites witnesses. I send the package to an encrypted drive and to a second account only Talia and my attorney will ever know. Then I set the originals to read only. My hands stop shaking. The air conditioner blows the smell of wet asphalt through the vents, a scent I'll remember when I'm old. I think of Noah's palm on my chest as he naps, and how small weights can anchor ships. I do not imagine confrontation. I imagine a room with chairs and light and a screen and the end of pretending. I name the file Tuesday 214. Full, and watch the progress bar travel like a measured breath. When I get home, the house is innocent on purpose. Toys sequester their small chaos. Dishes rest in their rack. The baby monitor blinks its little pulse, like a lighthouse keeping ships from rocks we've already hit. Marina asks about my day, and I answer with weather. A safe language for people who won't tell the truth. I hold Noah until his breath hands me forgiveness I haven't earned, and in that quiet, I understand revenge will not save me. Procedure, Mike. I am not a man burning down a city. I am a man turning off lights one by one until only the truth remains lit. I tuck Noah into sleep and sit in the hallway with the phone on my knee. The folder labeled chain, a square of cool light. For the first time since the laugh and the static, my chest opens enough to let air in. The next part will be public. It will also be clean. I book the church's fellowship room under the gentlest pretense I can live with. Gratitude night, a practice pastor once suggested when the world felt heavy. I print place cards that say family, and arrange folding chairs so no one sits in the dark. On my laptop, the deck waits in two halves. A hymn of ordinary blessings and the unblinking truth. I email invitations with soft language about prayer and perspective. I copy Ruth because she believes in rooms like this, and because Marina cares who sees her in them. I message Pastor separately. Ask for his presence as a witness, not a judge, and he answers with a single line about light and kindness, which I take as permission to proceed without spectacle. At home, I test the projector on the living room wall, the baby monitor's green eye catching the edge of the image like a conscience. The clicker sits in my palm like a trigger I refuse to misuse. Marina arrives with a tray of lemon bars and a brightness that feels like armor polished to mirror every question back at the asker. She kisses Noah's forehead and thanks Pastor in a voice that belongs on announcements. Ruth fusses with napkins and says how good it is we're doing this, how important gratitude is for young marriages, a hint of warning under the blessing. I hold the clicker and talk about small mercies. Noah's sleep stretching an hour longer, the roof not leaking in last week's storm, the way neighbors bring in trash cans when you forget. Marina relaxes into the liturgy of appearances, shoulders settling as if the room has returned to the script she wrote. When she reaches for my hand, I let her, and in that contact I say goodbye to the man who needed permission. The first slide glides into the second, and no one yet knows they're already looking at the runway that will end in truth. I speak in the same tone I use when I rock Noah. Low even. Unwilling to hand panic a microphone. Gratitude for quiet mornings, for strong coffee, for a community that shows up with casseroles and prayers. The slide clicks. Doorbell footage appears like a hymn gone minor. Tuesday, 2:04 p.m. A broad shoulder ducking under our porch light. Another click. The baby monitor log with its polite camera sleeping. Another. Motel walkway, sea glass door 214. A key light blinking green. No volume, no editorial. Just dates and time and the way Marina's breath changes in the chair beside me. A bird sensing a window it cannot fly through. Ruth's hand freezes around a napkin. Pastor folds his, rests it in his lap. The room's heat shifts. Not hotter, only nearer. Marina whispers my name, the way a person says wait to a train that does not. And I keep my voice calm. This is gratitude for truth, I tell them, and for the chance to speak plainly at last. Marina asks for a private word, the way a magician asks to check the props backstage, and I say no kindly and completely. Not because privacy is worthless, but because truth suffocates in it when used this way. She starts the familiar dance, echoes, misunderstandings, a stranger dropping by with a jacket, and each step lands with less conviction than the last. Ruth speaks her name like a prayer and a question. Pastor does not scold, he invites breath, names the room safe for honesty, reminds us that confession is not humiliation, but alignment. I keep my eyes on the screen where the chain sits intact, and offer only what the evidence offers. Times, places, the company we kept when vows were left unattended. Marina presses a hand to her throat as if surprised to find a pulse there. When she finally says Caleb's name, the syllables sound smaller than I expected, like something we could have swept up if we had looked earlier. We end without fireworks, which feels like a miracle more than an anticlimax. Pastor prays for clarity that doesn't wound for sport, for courage that doesn't make a weapon of itself. Ruth asks to hold Noah, and does, tears sliding into his curls, like rain that won't flood. Marina sits with her hands laced and her eyes on the carpet, a student waiting for a test to be graded by a teacher who has already posted the answers. I say what happens next will be simple and lawful, that I will not set fire to anything Noah needs to live in. Marina nods once, a little girl's nod inside a woman's face, and thanks me for not shouting. Outside the fellowship hall, the parking lot smells like wet leaves and cold metal. I pack the projector and label the bag, then write the first line of a list called consequences. It is not a threat. It is an itinerary. I begin where the wound began. Our living room, the walls made into a river. The projector throws the baby monitor clip in a red wash, a tint I chose not for gore, but for clarity. A filter that makes the truth impossible to confuse with mood. Marina stands in the doorway and asks what I'm doing. And I tell her we're acknowledging the water turned to blood. What flowed through our house unseen, now colored so even a child would point and say, "That is not right." I keep my voice gentle, like reading a warning label. Noah sleeps down the hall. The monitors actual feed a green island on the coffee table, present tense against the past. I say there will be 10 steps, not punishments but consequences, each one named so we do not get lost in feelings. Marina swallows and nods as if the red light has weight. I press pause and the laughter freezes, and for the first time it looks small, a bubble trapped in amber, not a god. Frogs are not monsters. They are messengers that arrive everywhere at once. Certified letters jump from my outbox to 3 doorsteps in a single afternoon. Ruth, pastor, and the R address on Caleb's contract. No adjectives, only dates and attachments. The way a weather report refuses to pick sides about rain. At the post office, I sign green cards until my name looks borrowed, and the clerk asks if I want insurance. I tell her truth travels best without padding. Back home, I photograph receipts, tracking numbers, envelopes, and tuck them into the chain. Marina watches the printer spit and asks if I'm trying to ruin her. I say, I'm trying to keep myself from ruining me. The hallway fills with the sound of small rubber stamps, a chorus of frogs. Noah laughs at the rhythm from his high chair, oblivious to amphibians and bureaucracy, and I choose to believe that's what mercy sounds like. A child clapping, while a system does its sleepy, necessary work. Gnats arrive as details, a hum you can ignore until it becomes the only sound. I catalog each lie in a spreadsheet with tags: time, place, device, witness. It isn't vengeance. It's pest control. Contain, document, prevent. Flies follow. Not rumors, but summaries sent to the few who need to know. The small group leader Marina confided in selectively. The mutual friends who deserve receipts instead of whispers. Talia sits with me over a shared screen and reminds me to keep adjectives out unless they're in a quoted message. We build a pivot table that would make an auditor smile and a poet cry. Marina texts I'm cruel. Then 10 minutes later, texts I'm scaring her. Then an hour later, sends a photo of Noah from last month, as if nostalgia could fog the lens. I write, we will keep it factual, and the silence that follows is almost clean. Livestock is assets. What feeds a family? I move accounts that bear my name alone, shut down joint credit before it can wander, and record every click for Priya. She sits across a small table with patience that could teach mountains to wait, and confirms each step edges the herd from open gates into safe pasture. Boils, Priya says, are consequences that appear on their own. Caleb's double billing report goes in with exhibits, not accusations. We breathe, and file, and breathe again. She reminds me, lawful is slower than rage, but arrives with its shoes tied. I sign a stack of forms my hands no longer shake over, and I feel something I haven't in weeks. appetite. Not for revenge, but for breakfast with my son. For the taste of coffee that isn't braced against dread. We schedule the filing for hail if the forecast cooperates. A little theater, Priya allows, is permissible when it helps the heart remember. Hail drums the roof like 1,000 white knuckles, and I take it as my cue. The server spits out the divorce packet with the soft clatter of a future arriving, and I walk it to Marina with a steadiness I earned the long way. Locusts means reclaiming the house, her curated decor into labeled boxes that respect glass and still refuse denial a place to sit. Darkness is simple, shared passwords gone, streaming signed out, the cloud unbraided so neither of us mistakes memory for possession. Firstborn isn't a plague here, it's protection. I file the custody motion citing the nursery breach and the chain that holds. Marina signs for service under the softened percussion of ice on shingles and whispers, "Is there any mercy left in you?" I tell her, "Mercy is a boundary that keeps our son's bed a sanctuary." The monitor's green light holds steady, a single star, untroubled by weather. After the hail, the quiet feels engineered. Like a museum of our life, where touching is discouraged. Marina moves into the guest room at her mother's for now, and the house breathes with a new rhythm I don't recognize yet. Lighter, lonely. Friends begin to sort themselves by the gravity they can tolerate. Some text a heart, some a paragraph. A few send silence that weighs more than either. Caleb's number never appears. He evaporates like alcohol on skin, leaving only the faint burn. I learn the choreography of single-parent mornings. Noah's bottle, my tie half-knotted, the diaper bag, a backpack of small hope, and discover that grief is strangely competent when it's given a list. At night, I keep the TV off, and the room simple. I fall asleep in the hallway sometimes, watching a child's lungs move like tide. Vengeance has been put away with the tools. What remains are boundaries that hum quietly, a fence line I walk each evening to check for breaks. At Ruth's condo, the conversations arrive like weather systems. First, a warm front of concern, then a chill of blame. She makes tea that tastes like patience and asks for the story again, but softer. Marina sits tight-lipped, eyes swollen, hands wrapped around a mug as if heat can revise history. I tell Ruth we will keep Noah's exchanges calm and on time, show her the plan in bulletproof logistics, pickups in the foyer, shared calendar invites, a neutral drop point if emotions fray. Marina nods, whispers that Caleb isn't answering, and the admission lands like a small confession that wants to be larger. Ruth looks from one of us to the other and says appearances are not truth, but they are neighbors, and we should be kind to both. On the way out, she presses an envelope into my hand, grocery gift cards, and a note of practical blessing, and I feel the bitter part of me step back to let gratitude through. Hurt moves like a glacier until the day it doesn't. Caleb's contract is paused pending review, a euphemism that lets everyone save nouns for later. Dahlia pings a check-in that isn't gossip. She asks if I've eaten, which is friendship dressed as HR compliance. We take a walk along wet sidewalks, and I say I am tired of being a story. That I want to be a father making lunch and a man who knows where the pacifiers go. She says that's what systems are for, so you can feel things without losing the thread. I laugh for the first time in weeks, and it sounds like a hinge-free. Back at my desk, I remove Caleb's access to our project repositories with clicks that feel both mundane and moral. The audit log records each keystroke without applause. I title a new folder After, and realize the word feels less like an ending and more like a lane we can drive in without looking for fire behind us. Pastor asks separately to walk the sanctuary when it's empty to let the room hold our noise. I sit in the back pew with Noah, asleep, against my chest, and listen to the old wood speak in creaks that feel like prayers for knees. Marina arrives later. I don't see her, but I hear a breath held too long and released. I light a candle for the part of me that wanted spectacle and watch it gutter into steadier flame. Then text her that exchanges will stay at Ruth's until the first hearing, that I'm willing to add an extra hour when she asks in kindness instead of chaos. She replies thank you with a period that feels grown. The stained glass writes color on Noah's blanket, a reminder that even borrowed light can be beautiful. I leave a note for Pastor. Truth was hard. We did not make it harder. It's not absolution, it is progress. Priya calls with the interim order. Temporary custody tilts my way with structured visitation for Marina. Exchanges at Ruth's. No overnights yet. And a note that the nursery camera isn't a toy. I say thank you like I'm accepting a fragile instrument and ask what to do with the ache that follows victory. She says hold it without feeding it. Then go make dinner. So I do. Pasta. Exactly one joke to make Noah giggle. Music low. Later, I carry boxes to the garage, her curated things labeled and safe, and feel no triumph, only a careful neutrality that might be pieces understudy. When Marina comes for her visit, she kneels to Noah's level and asks if he wants to hear a song, and he claps, because clapping is not partisan. I stand in the doorway and understand that the opposite of betrayal isn't punishment. It's steadiness repeated until trust gets bored and returns. The courthouse smells like paper and patience, and the judge's voice is a scalpel. Precise, leaving only what must remain. She reads the findings without weather, as if law has no seasons. Primary custody to me. Structured visitation to Marina with step-ups as trust becomes measurable. Exchanges at Ruth's, until both parties demonstrate consistency and a line that lands like a hand on a hot stove. No romantic visitors during overnights. The nursery camera is acknowledged not as spectacle but as context, a witness that did not know it would be called. Priya touches my sleeve once, a metronome reminding me to breathe between sentences, and I do. Marina stands tall, eyes glassy but steady. The woman who loved appearances now faces the only audience that matters, a clerk with a stamp. Outside the courtroom, we do not argue about adjectives. We sign where we're told and thank who we must. It feels less like triumph than like the end of a fever. Sweat cooling on skin, you can finally trust again. Back home, I take apart the theater I built and keep only the stage where our son will stand. The projector returns to its box. The spreadsheet becomes a sealed archive. The chain folder stays, but I move it out of sight, not out of reach. I restore the streaming account that carries kids' shows and nothing else. Remove the red filter from the wall by repainting the afternoon with sunlight and a roller. I email Pastor a note of thanks and send Ruth the new exchange calendar with room for grace margins. To Marina, I write a message with no metaphors. Our son's bedtime is non-negotiable. I will share photos after visits without commentary. If schedules change, we ask, not demand. Then I open the windows and let the house draft itself clear. The silence that follows is not empty. It is readiness. A clean counter waiting for dinner. A baby monitor hum that sounds less like surveillance and more like a lullaby, tuned to ordinary life. I meet Pastor in his office because release needs witnesses the way vows did. He does not ask for a recap. He asks how my breath feels in my chest. I tell him it feels like a door that can be opened without listening first for voices on the other side. He nods and speaks of forgiveness as a coat you hang by the door for the days weather surprises you. Reachable, not worn every hour. I admit my pettiness. The phantom arguments I still win in the shower. The temptation to keep Marina's worst day pinned to the corkboard of my mind. He says put a date on the pin, then throw away the pins. We pray nothing ornate. Just gratitude for boundaries that hold, and for the boredom of peace. When I leave, the church hallway smells of lemon oil and old paper, and I realize I no longer need revenge to feel tall. I need sleep, and a grocery list, and a tomorrow with nothing dramatic scheduled. The nursery is empty in the way a stage is before the actors arrive, benign and humming. Marina stands at the door and waits to be invited. I nod, and we take places on the floor like parents at a first rehearsal. We don't rehearse apologies. We exchange inventory. What we can carry, what we can't, what we'll never ask Noah to lift. She says she is sorry without garnish. I say I forgive her because I'm tired of holding a match near my own curtains. We agree on words to retire. Always. Never. Ruined. And on words to learn. Later. Maybe. Enough. In the window's reflection, we are smaller than we used to be, and closer to the truth for it. Before she leaves, she touches the crib rail like a pilgrim touches a gate, and asks if the monitor will stay. I say yes, but not as a guard dog. As a night watchman who clocks out at dawn. She smiles without showing teeth, which feels like honesty learning to walk. Dawn returns like a trustworthy friend. No thunder, just a pale shoulder rolling into the window. I lift Noah from his crib, and he blinks at the new day with the expression of a judge who acquits without speeches. We walk the hallway that once felt like a vestibule to trial, and it is only a hallway now, with a squeak in the third board and a smudge I'll wipe later. In the kitchen, I pour coffee and warm his bottle, and when the monitor hums, I realize it sounds like a song I know by heart, not a siren. I open the back door and let the first cool air of morning meet us. Noah reaches for it with both hands, as if light were something you could pick up. I think of the 10 plagues and the way they ended with an exodus. Ours ends with breakfast. I do not feel heroic. I feel scheduled, which is better. The green light on the monitor is steady. The only recording I need now is the one my son will keep of a home that chose quiet.